Good morning. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name's Lorene. I would like to give a great big thank you to the YouTube Reading This Life. She did a shout out for me or about me on her channel, and I think I've got a few new subscribers who hail from there. So thank you for coming, and thank you to Reading This Life. So here's where I talk about books mostly, and every once in a while I yak. And this is a good combination of both, I think, because I'm enjoying myself. I'm in a different room today. It's very, very bright sunshine, and it's all jiggity-jaggedy all over the place. And so this is the one corner I found where it's kind of even. And I mention that simply because this is Steve's room. And so this is just sort of maybe 10% of the books that are in this room. This goes all the way up to the ceiling, all the way down, and then over to the side wall. And then on that side, he's got another 50% of what this is. And then there's a cupboard over there with oversized. He's got a lot of books. And it's a really nice room. I wonder what he would think if I filmed in here every week, because normally he's at home. I'm taking advantage of him being out for the morning. So that's why I'm here and not in my usual spot. We need a plant. I have 3 books for you today that I think you are going to enjoy. The first one is a book that I've got upstairs beside my bed, or in my bed. We treated ourselves to a bigger bed, and it's like all the extra space up at the head of the bed is a great place for books. You can't stack them too high because you don't want them falling on your forehead in the middle of the night, but I do have 2 or 3 up there. And so one of the ones that I am reading at bedtime right now is The Secret Lives of Stones, Lapidarium, and it is brought all together by Hetty Judah. And I mentioned this in my recommendations for Nonfiction November. It's so wonderful. I had no idea how wonderful this book was going to be. And as you can see, there's all these smaller subchapters about, under whatever that category, that stones and stories. It's just the right number of pages. There's like 2 or 3 pages per stone. There's an overview of the category of different stones and why these ones were brought together under that particular heading. And it's just exactly the right of information. There's no violence. There's nothing to make you think, oh God, I shouldn't have read that. There's quite a lot of interesting side stories to the stones. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. So it's combination of cultural history, art history, maybe economic history if it's something that a country has particularly valued as type of stone. There's interesting stuff around amber, which I completely don't, I 100% don't entirely understand, is that they mention that the amber floated and came up on the beaches, and so from petrified trees that I guess would have been underwater. But I was just thinking, like, why the current. Anyways, I have to find out about that, because it's a little mystery that I feel is unsolved. So I'm really enjoying this, and to me, much like the book that I brought to you some time back, The Secret Lives of Color, it's just exactly the right amount of fact, and the fact is connected to stories in a way. This king did that, or this artist did that. And so if you like little prompts for imagination things before you fall asleep, this is full of them. So love this book. Okay, the next book I'm bringing to you, well, I'm actually currently reading it, and it's called Community Board, a novel by Tara Conklin. And she also wrote The Last Romantics. So I was in the library, and I bumped into a friend on one of my book clubs, and we were chatting about how books lately just leave you kind of thinking, why am I alive? Why am I reading these books? Maybe it would be better if I just became addicted to Game Boy or something. So those kinds of books, I was feeling the despair. So she suggested this book, and this particular lady likes a book that's got, sharp, sassy writing, and this is full of it. It's full of little smartitudes. It's full of little turns of phrases, and there isn't like an amazing plot. The characters aren't particularly well drawn out. It's just a fun, harm-free book to enjoy between the ones that we're reading, because we're not sure why we're reading them. And who we have here is Darcy Clipper. She's her husband has just walked out of her. She hasn't noticed that the marriage is just sinking into nothing. It's just disintegrating, and she's not paying any attention to it. And so she decides to go home, where her parents have nurtured and coddled her for all of her life. So there's no reason for her to think that will change, only to discover that they've moved to Arizona for a year, and she's on her own. She's got to deal with all these things by herself, and she has a bit of a meltdown, which is we don't laugh at mental health, but the way that the author has portrayed it, it's comic. She's not in any danger, so we don't have to worry that she's having untreated mental health issues. She's having a really bad moment of grief. And she ends up getting a part-time job with a family of 2 men and 3 boys, and they are building a spectacular jungle gym playground thing in the lot beside their house. And they're hoping that not only will their boys play there, but the neighborhood kids will play there, or anybody in the community can play there. And so someone else wants this site for development, so there's sabotage that comes through on the community board. And so this is one of these online things where you can post that you've got extra blades for your lawnmower, or you're desperate for tulips. Does anybody have any tulips? That kind of thing. So the sabotage is coming through the community board, and then starts to morph into real events. And I'm at the point in the book where they're trying to figure out how they can retaliate's the wrong word. It's how they can rebuttal and make the family can rebuttal the accusations being made against their playground development. And so she's going to be an undercover spy at the Mushroom Festival as a volunteer. And the Mushroom Festival is quite a lark too. There's just so much larky stuff going on here. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm having a hard time not reading it, and the laundry's not done, and, well, I did change the cat litter, but that's about all we can say today. All right, Elizabeth Jane Howard wrote The Light Years, and this is also a really sweet little romp. It's the Caslett Chronicles, Volume 1, and we've got the Caslett family, who have a large cast of characters in it. Is this the one that has the family tree? I read one just the other. Oh yeah, it does. You kind of have to keep your finger on that page, because I found within the cast of characters, occasionally I had to remember who was related to whom. So we've got the grandparents, and then they have 4 children, and those 4 children, 3 of them have got 2 or 3 children. So we're getting all 3 generations simultaneously, which makes for some really interesting interplay between points of view. We'll get Granny's point of view, or Grandpa's, and then we'll get one of the fairly younger grandchildren. And it's also one of those stories where not everybody has all the information. I think it's kind of... is there a plot? I don't think you can have a plot when you've got a family size that big. It's more of a moment in time. So all the 3 boys go back to the family home in the summertime with their wives and their young children. And at the family home are the parents and the daughter, who is unmarried, who turns out to be desperately in love with a Jewish refugee musician, but she will not change her life with her parents. She feels that her parents are 100% dependent on her, and so she's in this kind of sacrificing her love for her parents mode. And then the three boys are going back, or they're men, are going back home, and each of them has got some kind of personality trait that we're intrigued by, and maybe they've got a crisis in their lives, or maybe they're just living life. So, and as a result, we see some of the relationships that these men have with their wives and their children. And I found it was really enjoyable. It's not as cozy as Miss Reed's, that Gail, what is her site? Gail Stayner Reads, I think, is her site. Anyway, she's always got cozy books, and she's just been talking about the Miss Reed's series. And so this is a little bit tougher because we do have issues around a pregnancy. One of the ladies has had a late life pregnancy, and she's very ambivalent about that. She was ready to, let go and fly. So what is she going to do with this baby at 42? So there's questions around, realistic questions about those kinds of life dilemmas. What are you going to do with the child who is completely at odds with the new stepmother? So there's kind of those conflicts that going on as well, and keeps the story alive and moving. Now, I believe that there are 5 books in this series, and I did order number 2. I enjoyed this well enough that I would like to at least go to number 2. I did do a bit of a cheat. I went on to Goodreads, I think, and read a little capsule as to what, what's happening next. And, but I'll forget that, By the time book 2 rolls around, I'll have completely forgotten what I've read. But I wanted to know how many books it was going to take for certain things to resolve. And because there's an unresolved storyline in here that will go forward that I was, thinking, geez, I'm actually really intrigued. So I think this is another book. It's big, so I think it's another book that you can do at the end of the day when you're feeling a little bit tired and you just want to just relax. Now, one of the things I should mention is that it's taking place in 1937, 1938 England, and this is during the first indicators that war is on the horizon. They've had a scare that war is coming, and so you see the country kind of do this huge hiccup of getting kids out of London, getting families out of London. So there's this huge migration out, and that story is part of it as well. What are you going to do? And all of a sudden they've gone from feeding about 12 people to feeding 24 people and only one cook, and she's like, what? So yeah, there's really some interesting background story going on to it as well. The remainder of the books don't follow on hard on the World War II thing. Some have a 2-year gap, some have a 10-year gap. So you get to see the whole shooting match, as they say. Maybe I shouldn't say that in this day and age. I've got to find a new saying. All right, that's 1, 2, 3. That's it for me. I hope all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye for now.